anyone outside of North Carolina can bid on these items, and I'll be joining you here in just a moment with our special guest. But that's the Walk to Defeat ALS. That'll be tomorrow. I'm going to be hosting our live stream that will begin at 9:10 in the morning. You'll be able to catch that on LinkedIn Live as well. All right. We have fun each and every Friday because it is Friday, right? We've got to have fun. It's Friday. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. And each and every week we have a lot of fun catching up with one of my friends who I stay in touch with as well. We've got a good one for you. Here we go. Live at 5. Thank you. We made it to the end of another work week. This is the way I decided a few months ago that I was going to wind down the week in my office here at the ALS Association office in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. Thank you so much for joining. We will take your comments and your questions for my guest. All you got to do is just put them in the comments section. We are live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on my YouTube channel, too. You can search Shore Sports Media, and you can find some of the past guests like Kenny Rice, my former colleague and sportscaster. Last week was a lot of fun. This guest I've been looking forward to as well. I had to wait until he got done and in the clear from working basketball because he was very busy with the Dallas Mavericks. I welcome in the play-by-play man of the Dallas Mavericks, the pretty face on television, the great Mark Followill. Mark, how are you, man?
Dave, it's great to talk to you, and thank you for your lovely introduction. And most importantly, the part you said, I look forward to talking to my friends. And it's great to catch up with you, a good friend. We worked together for many, many years in Dallas and loved working with you. And you brought so much when we were working together on the Mavs radio broadcast so many years ago. And man, it's awesome to see what you're doing now, obviously for a very, very important cause. But let's talk some sports, man.
Let's have some fun. First of all, let me bring up a memory. Do you remember this? This is the three guys right there. BD, Brad Davis, young Mark Followill, and a very young Dave Shore there as well.
Well, that's an award-winning crew, by the way. We did win awards for Texas Associated Press Best Sports Broadcast, Radio Sports Broadcast. So that's an award-winning crew. I prefer that I have a beard now compared to that picture. So,
well, you know what? And I also noticed that TV brings a little glam. I caught this other one. That is style, my friend. I mean, that is style right there.
Well, thank you so much. That was a new suit. That debuted for the playoffs this year, and had a little bit of red in it. And we were playing the Clippers, who one of their teams are red, but I figured that was okay. So it was, that was fun to bring that one out for the playoffs, and it will be making an appearance again next year at some point.
Mark, remind me, how many years have you been the voice of the Mavericks?
So, Dave, I worked for 2 years part-time on the radio broadcast. I was doing studio most of the time, but I did do some play-by-play in some games. Then 4 years as the voice of the Mavs on radio on 103.3 FM ESPN back in Dallas. Those call letters probably roll off your tongue just like that as well.
We still do.
Yeah, from 2001 to 2005. And then in 2005, I started as the TV play-by-play voice on Fox Sports Southwest. And now we're about Valley Sports Southwest, as you know. So I just finished up 16 seasons. So all total, it's 22 years of broadcasting with the Mavs, Dave.
Yeah, that's an amazing run, Mark. And I'm sure that you never take it for granted because you've always been that way. You've always been a humble person in my mind, and one of the smartest guys I've been around as well. I don't think you've lost that edge either.
Well, I'm 50, so I forget a few things a little bit more these days now. so that happens. But no, man, I appreciate that, and not a day goes by, and I do mean this, like in any job, we all have our moments of frustration, and in this job, you do as well. I know that you know that, but more than anything, man, to get to do this for 22 years for your hometown team, some of your viewers know this. Some of your viewers may not know. I mean, I grew up here in Dallas, so I've been extremely, extremely blessed to be in this position, and it's been a heck of a run, and I've had some, amazing experiences for a kid who grew up in a town of 1,200 people, Justin, Texas, way back in the day.
No, that is. And how far is that outside of Dallas?
It's about 45 minutes northwest. It's close to Fort Worth. So if you're in North Carolina, so I'm sure that you have some NASCAR fans that are watching. Our track, Texas Motor Speedway, is as the crow flies from the house that I spent a lot of my formative years in, and where my mother is at 87 years old to this day. is about a mile and a half from that speedway, from Texas Motor Speedway, the great track here in the North Texas area.
Wow. And remember when they thought that was really being built way outside of town, and now everything's right on top of it, right?
That the town I grew up in, Justin, was 1,200 people. What the population sign, I'm not kidding you, dude. When I was in the 80s, when I was there, was 1,234. 1, 2, 3, 4 was what the population sign was now. And I haven't even seen the 2020 census. The 2010 census was like 7,200 people, and it's probably over 10,000 people there now. That part of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as many parts have absolutely exploded in growth.
You might have some questions for Mark, and I can put those up later or say hello to him as well. Mark, these are social media platforms, so many people know you, they know me, and they know we've been together and friends for a long time. Let me say,
and what I want to say too, man, I hope people that are watching now may not remember, or may not have heard Dave when he did radio with the Mavs and broadcasting with the Mavs, but you did such an excellent job, man. And I think that one of the things that you do in your job now, obviously, is relationship building. And that was something that I watched you do and saw you do it with us and saw you do it between the radio station and other affiliates in town, man. Is you were so good at that. And, you have a way with people. And I see the pictures that you posted on social media from your time in LA. You have some wonderful pictures, and I know how hard the tragic events of January of 2020 with Kobe must have been for you, because I've seen the pictures. You were close to him, man, and so you brought so much to our broadcast when you were with us. And again, I sincerely mean that. You have a wonderful way with people, and the things that you got people to tell you really added something to our broadcast back in the day. So I thank you for that, and that is a most sincere compliment, sir.
You know what, Mark, that means a lot. It really does mean a lot, and it's interesting because one of the toughest moments of those years being with the Lakers is when we left you guys in that 2011 playoffs after the Lakers had been embarrassed. And, it was kind of strange because I was so happy for all of you, but that was a very strange Lakers flight home. So strange that Lamar Odom actually came back with a glass of wine and sat by me, and we talked about having cameras all around him on the Kardashian show all the time. I mean, it was how people are when their season is over, they just kind of open up, and that was just a collapse. And I was so happy to see all of you go on to that. Now you got to do it again. I mean, 2011 was a while ago. Right.
Yeah, 10 years ago. And it was cool to commemorate 10 years. But if I'm being perfectly honest with you, man, I know from my perspective, I'll always think of June 12, 2011, and I'll always think of that day. But it is time to, you can only celebrate that anniversary so many times and realize, you gotta move forward. But you are right, by the way. Those last flights home from the last game, there are a lot of emotions. And sometimes you consume things to help enhance or kill the pain of those emotions, man. Those last flights home were something else for sure.
Well, let me turn around because you can barely see it there. Let me get a visual aid here. This one is one of those hurting ones. This is the 2006 NBA Finals hat, and that's 25 years ago, Mark. And that was one of those that I thought, I'm going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And you talk about one that slipped down. So that's one of my memories that I don't like to celebrate an anniversary of.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I still see the press pass from that of mine every once in a while. And the emotions are very mixed from it because in a way, you can rationalize it and say, that set the stage for what was an even greater fairy tale in 2011, if we're being honest about it. But obviously, no, you would never want to live through the pain of that from the Mavs perspective in 2006. But the universe worked itself out.
Mark, I think people don't realize that we get to know and work around the personalities of the sports. And I think that you had an interesting take, or when you wrote your feelings as you came back from vacation, you had missed a little bit. And it's not easy to just see people go off into the sunset. You really worked well with Rick Carlisle, and I know from being around guys who the coaches took a little extra care of us and really treated us well. I don't want that to go left unsaid because he's just one of the good guys out there.
Yeah, for sure. I had a very, very good relationship with Donnie Nelson, who I knew even before I started with the Mavs. I remember when I was at one of the stations that 103.3 we worked for. Before that, I was at the Ticket in Dallas, a competing station of 103. And now they've been owned by the same company now for several years, but back then we're real competitors and everything. And I knew Donnie, when I was working at the Ticket before I started doing the Mavs broadcast. So there was such a good relationship there. And Rick, and you're of course great friends with Chuck Cooperstein, the radio voice of the. And Rick really treated Coop and I and Derek Harper, my partner on the broadcast, and Bob Ortigal, my previous partner on the broadcast, who overlapped with Rick for 3 years, and Jeff Skin Wade, who's another analyst on our broadcast as well, who's a really important part of our show. Rick treated all of us very, very well, and there were some fun dinners, some fun conversations where he talked basketball philosophy and Celtic stories and music and a lot of things like that. So and he did, and you got to experience this some too. With Don Nelson when he was coaching the Mavs in some of your first couple of years doing radio. Not every coach lets his media even if there's a trust factor with the radio and TV announcers and the radio and TV broadcast teams. Just not every coach is willing to let those individuals in to watch shoot arounds and practice. And that helps. But obviously for coaches, that's a tough trust to earn from those guys. And Rick trusted us and respected us, and I just really, really appreciated it and learned a lot from him. And on a personal note, when this as well, Dave, when people like that go, it's sad, of course. Yeah. The domino effect of that is that when a general manager and a coach leaves, there are usually other people that are in positions under in the hierarchy of the organization. And when the new GM and the new coach come in, they have people that they want at certain levels of the hierarchy of the organization. And so that means, and as I've always said when I do these interviews and talk about it, I'm not throwing any names out there. I don't know who it could be, but there's some people right now who are friends of mine who, quite frankly, are probably on edge. And I feel for that for them. And I don't want to see anybody go, but that's an unfortunate part of it. But as my partner, Derek Harper, likes to say, when it comes to the NBA, Dave, the beat goes on, man. And, it's, it is what it is,
Yeah. Well, sometimes after seeing it up close, like we have over the years, you do formulate your opinions. What emphasis and what power do you believe the coach plays on today's NBA game?
What a great question.
Outcome, the result.
What a great question. What percentage? I don't know that I would say. Look, first and foremost, if a coach doesn't have players, he's not winning. The NBA is first and foremost a players' league. You must have players. Greg Popovich is a wonderful coach. He didn't just start forgetting how to coach in the last 2 years that the Spurs have had losing records. They don't have the players that they once had. And let's be honest about that. And that's, the reason that Rick Carlisle didn't win a playoff series in his last 10 years with Dallas isn't because he lost his edge. Doesn't mean that I didn't think that, like with any coach, they're not infallible and they make decisions that we all question and I think rightly so. As things go on. But Rick didn't forget to coach the last 10 years. The talent level for the Mavericks wasn't what it needed to be able to be more competitive in the Western Conference. So what I do think matters for coaching is you put a culture in place, you put a system in place, you are a psychologist, you're motivator, you're go-between, you're manager of egos. Yep. You're a CEO of an organization without the financial ramifications of it, but you're still just sort of setting a tone for a group of individuals. And you're just getting a group of men to buy into, sacrificing for one another and depending on one another. And so a coach has a very, very important role. And during the games, look, you got to get adjustments right. You got to play the right guys at the right time and make the right adjustments within a playoff series from game to game. A coach has to take the right people and put them in the right place at the right time, doing the right things. Yeah. And so that's all part of it. And drawing up plays and late game out of bounds plays. And I mean, look, Monty Williams drew up a heck of a play the other night on the lob to DeAndre Ayton for Phoenix to win game 2 against the Clippers. So the coach plays a big role, but the players play the biggest role if we're being honest about it. Which, by the way, when we talk about plays like these are all tributes to longtime coaches long ago. I think that was a Nelly play. Yeah. I think, I think a lot of people, as we saw the other night, and there's people within the game don't remember the rule that on an out of bounds pass, you can touch the ball in the cylinder. because it's not a shot attempt. The thing that makes that hard, by the way, if we're just going to do a little basketball analysis and why I don't think you see that anymore, think about this, Dave. And most, as you know, in late game situations, an out of bounds pass with, the other team's done something and you're throwing the ball in bounds and there's 1.7 seconds to go. That pass is usually coming from the hash mark that's 28 feet out on the sideline that's out near half court. That's a long pass that you're trying to throw if you're going to try to throw it up in the cylinder of the basket. If you don't see very many baseline out of bounds plays with 1 second left to go in a game. That's usually the ball's been advanced into the front court. And you're throwing in. Yeah. You're not throwing in. The ball. You don't have many plays in a late game situation where the ball's been tipped out of bounds on the baseline and you're throwing in from there. But it was the perfect scenario for that kind of play to make it work.
Let me ask you, because for me, and you know that I still get a chance to do this on the side when we actually get to go to games for ESPN. So the last one I was a Virginia college basketball game in March of 2020. So I assume for fall football, we're going to be back out there. How hard was it to not be at the games? I've been very, very blessed, Dave, in my career of doing a lot of soccer since I started with FC Dallas in 2012, the Major League Soccer team that's in Dallas, for those who don't know, North Texas, for those who don't know. Frisco is technically the city that it's in. And, we do our road games, and this is fairly common for most Major League Soccer broadcasts. Not all. Sometimes they travel their road or broadcast teams to road games. But a lot of the times, Major League Soccer teams do their broadcasts from a studio of their road games and do it off a monitor. I had a lot of experience doing that. I had a lot of Fox Soccer experience doing games, from under 20 World Cups in New Zealand. And that is an event that one of the FIFA under 20 World Cups that was in New Zealand several years ago, or a FIFA under 17 World Cup in India. So I've done a lot of youth World Cup games for Fox over the last few years, and then did the World Cup itself in 2018. Yep. Many people know that popped up on my memory yesterday.
Yeah, many people
do a game.
Yeah, thank you. Many people know and somewhat controversially so, that they did not send all the broadcast teams to Russia. Some of us, and I was one of them, did games off a monitor in LA. So I've had a lot of experience doing that, and I know what you have to do to create your own energy, and that really, to me, is the biggest part of it. Is when you're in a sterile studio and the game's going on 1,000 miles away or whatever, being able to create your own energy. So the key to that is, of course, you've got to be getting the nat sound, the ambient sound that's coming from the arena to be able to help things out. And then you're just you're dependent on camera guys, producers, and directors, making sure that the right shots are on the screen so you're able to describe the best you can the action. So, as I always said about it, I'm probably made a few mistakes along the way this year, but it was my job to make it the best that it could be. And, there's a lot harder situations for people going on in the world than the play-by-play guy has to do the game off a monitor. So I don't like to talk about, that was so tough or anything like that. We got through it as best we could. I feel good about what we did. And hopefully it'll be back to normal in the basketball world here soon.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there any thought that, we can save a lot of money by not going? But I still think at the end of the day, you add something extra to it. You see some things that you guys talk about that happen, the way that people walk in, the way they were in the pregame. Yeah. You just cannot acclimate that always being on remote.
Yeah, so I think that around the NBA, my gut feeling on it is that you'll see most announced teams travel again next year. Now, some real advances have been made in technology. Those advances were already being made. The pandemic and the adjustments that people have had to make to live broadcasting in the pandemic have accelerated these things. I think there's a very good chance that for significant numbers of games next year for NBA broadcast teams, their crews that have been traveling in the past, you traveled on the plane with us, Dave. Yeah. So you know that the television crew is not just the play-by-play guy and the analyst. There's 4 or 5 guys that work in the truck that travel with the team on the road. I think that teams around the league will probably see a reduction of that, where you're going to be able to do, maybe they'll travel some. Maybe the infrastructure isn't in all of these arenas to do it this way, but there's ways now that you can have a truck on site and the home team can do their broadcast from that truck, and the road team can be parked in a TV truck back at American Airlines Center or whatever the arena is of the road team, and they can be there. And there's just amazing technological things that are possible now where you can do the show like that. So I think you're going to ESPN already does this and a lot of their events. Fox has done it. I did MLS games, Dave, where talent would be on site for Fox. Play-by-play guy and analyst are on site, and the producer and director are in Charlotte. It's something that's called a Remy. In some cases in the business. So I think we're going to continue to see that as a concession to the times and as a concession to budgetary concerns, I would assume.
Speaking of calling the game, obviously TV is the most prestigious of it, but did you really enjoyed your radio experience? I know that the games that I called on radio, there's something really fun about telling the distance that someone's away for a shot, or all the details. It's hard to lay back on TV at times.
I grew up wanting to be a radio guy, Dave. Some of my best memories in life were listening to Ranger games, when I was 13 years old and listening to Ranger games on the radio. And, I think I've told you this story before. One of the reasons I was drawn to radio, and look, I was a nerdy kid, man, and I don't mind admitting that to anybody at any point in time, and to all your viewers on this. I mean, I know I'd be 12 years old, and it was so cool, dude, to listen to this radio in your room. And it's like, oh, I can hear WLW in Cincinnati, or I can hear KDKA, and I'm in, Dallas, Texas, Justin, Texas, Louisville, Texas, wherever I was. I can hear KOA in Denver and KDKA in Pittsburgh and WBBM in Chicago and, WSM, the voice of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. I mean, I could hear these stations from all over the country, man.
Yeah. And
when I was 13 years old, I thought, God, what a great job that would be, because some Mark Followill is out there would be listening to me in his room I was very, very enamored by that growing up. So that was, something that really drew me to radio. And Dave, I love doing the games on radio, man. And, when the chance to go to TV happened, I don't know how much you remember about this, but I was extremely reluctant, if I'm being very, very honest about it, because I romanticized and still do. Look, a radio play-by-play guy, we love the idea. You know this, Dave. You love the idea of the fact that somebody's at home and for whatever reason, they're not watching on TV and they can't see the games and they're listening and just hanging on your every word. And there's something very stirring about that if you're really dedicated to radio play-by-play. I'm so grateful for how things worked out. I do miss my radio days, but everything's worked out moving to TV, and it's it's all good.
I will say, I will always remind people that I was blessed in so many ways through 13 years, I believe, of radio pregame and sideline reporting. I had the best radio guys, I thought, ever that anybody could work with. I had you, then I had Coop, who knows so much about the game, and then and I'm sorry, I should say 4, because I had a lot of fun with Spiro Ditas in Los Angeles, and then when we switched to John Ireland, John was just one of the best as well. Just good all around guys who appreciated the game, and I thought were humble all the way through. And so I thank all of you, because sometimes when you're in a job, you think, I would rather be doing that other job. I love being on the sideline more than anything.
Yeah, and you were great, and you were in your element, dude. You were good at it. You were so good at it.
It's really the stuff I heard that I couldn't tell. That's the best. That's the best stuff of it all. And that's the kind of the coaches' stories when you see that they're not playing for it. Those Laker years with Mike Brown, he just did not have those players at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, he would call one thing, and as Kobe was walking out, Kobe would just tell the guys, "No, we're going to run this," and he would just completely change the play. I mean, it was just incredible to see, and that's where you realize that, well, I think they're kind of important to the overall success. But then, when you see the really truly great coaches, you can tell they have control of the game. And Nelly and Phil, they knew when to push a button and when to hold back, when to not have a shoot around, when to have it.
It's there's a lot of metaphors for that, and a pat in the back and a kick in the butt aren't very far from one another. But those guys knew when to pat somebody in the back or kick him in the butt. And man, I love that you mentioned all those guys. And of course, I'm so close to Coop here in Dallas, and Spiro was great. John Ireland, man, he's such a good talk show host too, besides being a radio play-by-play guy. And, I don't think I'll ever live the rest of my life without the name John Ireland being thought of. And I think of his interview with Shaq on TV, where it's like, Shaq said some sort of word you're not supposed to say on TV. And John Ireland is like, Shaq, we're on live TV. I don't give a blank. And John, man, he was such a pro, dude. He was so good.
He had started with that sideline reporter too. So, it's that kind of, knowing how to talk to people thing. But you guys have done a solid job. Now, let me ask you something. You can't say any of your current guys like Harp or Skin. Okay. If you could work an NBA game with any analyst other than those guys, who would you like to work a game with?
That's good, man. That's a great question. I love a lot of the analysts who are in the NBA. I think that Jim Peterson in Minnesota is among the absolute best. He's so freaking good, man. I really, really enjoy listening to him and his breakdown of the game. But if I could work with one analyst who's out there right now, I think that the guy I'd like to do a game with, and because I love how he dresses, I just love his demeanor, and he's such a legend in the game. He's seen so much. To work a game with Walt Clyde Frazier would be so awesome, man. I would. He jumped on. We did a little announcer swap one time in a Knicks Mavs game. Hart played on the finals team for the Knicks in '94. So for part of the second quarter, Hart came over and was on the Knicks broadcast with Mike Breen. And maybe Mike wasn't doing it that night. Mike does so much stuff. So maybe it was Kenny Albert or something like that. I don't remember. And then Walt came over with me and Skin on our broadcast. And just Clyde is man, he's just seen so much, and he's so good on the air, man. And I love his rhymes. And so I think I respect all the guys who are out there analyzing the NBA. And there's so many great national guys. And I think it would be really cool to work a game with Hubie Brown, for example, because the man has more basketball knowledge in his pinky finger than Mark Followill has. But yeah, if I were going to take one guy off a local NBA broadcast and do one game, I'd probably say Walt Clyde Frazier.
Yeah, I'll tell you. You know what's amazing is a dinner with Hubie and PJ Carlissimo.
Oh,
I mean,
you did a lot of listening in that dinner, dude.
You just listen to stories like all night long.
Yeah,
on those ESPN games. So it's just speaking of.
You did a lot of listening in that one, man.
Speaking of, people don't know that you are a dining aficionado. You know your food. If there was a city we went to, Mark knew exactly where we needed to go that night. You can't tell by looking at him. I mean, Mark, you still run probably a lot. I mean, you don't look like you gain anything from all that food. But I've seen your Instagram. I mean, you love a good dish.
I do, man. I love. Food is a wonderful thing, and one of my favorite personalities in entertainment ever has been Anthony Bourdain, and what he knew that such an amazing guy, and an amazing television host, and what he knew about what food meant, and you could sit down with a group of people, and it just when you have a good meal together, man, it's a lot of people will say that you can bond in ways playing golf that you can't bond in other, but I'm not a golfer, but I am an eater, and I love good food, and I think that's true that you can bond over a fun meal in a lot of ways, and it's just I think part of the reason I like to do that is because look, man, when you travel somewhere, how you eat is really going to define a lot of your experience when you go somewhere. And so I think that's part of it. There's just so many unique restaurants in the world. It's fun to try them, so many unique different kinds of food. And I like to share that stuff because I feel the same way for people. It's like, man, when people go somewhere and travel and have a bad experience, and part of the reason is because they didn't get good food, that sucks, man. So I like to share those things with people because I realize what a wonderful thing traveling is. And I want people to have such a good experience.
It seems like one of your hobbies. You've always, I've always noticed that you never stop learning either. I think you learned. Are you fluent in Spanish?
I'm not fluent, but I mean, I can read and write a little. It's hard to hold on to conversation. When my wife and I go to Mexico together,
there that she loved watching Anthony's shows. So sad to lose him.
Thank you, Beth. I think that my wife and I always say when we go to Mexico, we make such a great team because I'm willing to say and speak things more frequently. And she, because of some past work experiences and minored in college in Spanish, she does understand better. So I do the talking, she does the understanding, and we make it work. But I'm not fluent by any stretch of the imagination. My reading and writing's better, but it's just, I'm not a native speaker, so it's hard.
Yeah. Back in college, I thought I'd be smart. I took 2 years of Spanish.
Mhm.
Then we went on a trip to the Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo, in the late
Yeah.
80s or mid 80s. And I realized I don't know what they've been teaching us, but it can maybe only get me a few words right across the border, because in Dominican Republic, they couldn't understand anything that I had learned. So I missed that part where I think about putting it together,
Yeah,
conversationally. I
they
knew
don't,
words,
dude.
but
They do not teach you in college Spanish classes or high school Spanish classes or whatever. They teach you things that are very helpful, but they don't teach you Spanish the way people talk Spanish as native speakers in a country. And, you know, and it's, one of the things I love when I travel to Mexico, and my wife and I go there a lot, is the people are so wonderful. And they love nothing more than someone that's trying to speak. And they're so patient and so encouraging with that. And so that's like a really neat experience of that.
So let me ask you, because a lot of kids or anybody that I've spoken to, two athletes that they've asked me the most about. One you mentioned in the late Kobe Bryant. Just what made him a superstar, or something about what he was like. And then the other one is Dirk. You obviously spent longer than I did, but he was very influential to me because I got to see an amazing individual up close. What did he mean, you getting a chance to be around him during those crazy years when he was such a superstar?
It's an indescribable experience in a lot of ways. And you know, maybe the best entry point to it is this, Dave. A lot of people think that guys like you and I cover sports and cover games. But the reality is we cover people playing sports and games.
Yeah.
And what makes all of this matter, and I think ultimately what makes us all invest in it in the way we do emotionally and mentally and physically and everything, is that it's people. If it were just robots out there playing the games, you know, wearing the laundry that we like, I don't think we'd have the affinity for it that we do. So Dirk was such an amazing person. He came here as a very self-described, shy, skinny kid from Würzburg, Germany. And he had a tough time. The fans stayed with him. The fans stayed behind him. And he told me in an interview very late in his career that part of what drove him was wanting to pay them back for the support that they showed him early in his career. And we watched him become that shy, skinny, you know, he was that shy, skinny 19-year-old kid from Würzburg, grow up into a good NBA player, and then a great NBA player, and an MVP level guy, and constantly in pursuit, and finally winning the championship. And then we saw him not just grow up into a great player, but we saw him grow up into not just a person who's very, very funny and so willing to give of himself and show himself and be humorous and be just that crazy guy that he was. But he grew up to be just, you know, an extraordinary man. His philanthropy, his dedication to giving back to this community, to giving back to, you know, causes that are important to him in Germany as well. You know, that's the thing. I mean, Dirk won an award from a group here, the Henry Mellon Award. He won that award here about 3-4 years ago, and for being, you know, just a distinguished global citizen, you know, representing the city of Dallas and North Texas. So, you know, Dirk just, you know, he became a great basketball player, but he became a man that you would be so proud to represent your city and represent your area, and to be the face of the franchise and the face of your area when it came to sports. And there were so many funny stories because he liked to cut up so much, but he did his work too. You know, that's the thing about Dirk. You know, look, you remember this, man. I mean, look, Dirk was a jokester, but Dirk also was one of the hardest workers around, dude. I mean, nobody worked in those years that you were with the Mavs. Nobody worked harder. I mean, guys worked hard in their game, of course, but nobody worked harder than Dirk. I mean, having to take the keys away so he couldn't go back to the gym to unlock the door and get in the gym at night. And that stuff is not BS, man. He really did that kind of stuff.
No, I've told this story before when they say, tell me the difference of a superstar. Okay. And so for Dirk and Kobe, it was the same thing. Mark, you know this, pulling up late the night before in the next city. Okay. And those two guys many, many times grabbed a trainer and went this way while the other guys went up in their room to play video games and hang out. Right. Okay.
Amen.
Because they wanted to get some shots up. To me, I'm like, I walk away. That's the details that superstars don't forget.
And folks, that stuff that Dave is saying is the honest to God truth. We saw it happen with Dirk. I'm sure you saw it happen with Kobe Bryant. I've heard very similar stories like that with Kobe. I mean, that is the honest to God truth that kind of stuff would happen, man.
Yeah. The other thing about Kobe is on the bus ride over to the hotel, the call was made to the hotel to go ahead and fill his tub. with ice, okay, because he would do an ice bath, and I can't even, sit a foot in one, but he would lay in that thing to take care of that body. Here's another one I remember of Dirk. I saw him walk on his hands 3/4 of the way down the court. And you cannot describe a 7-footer walking on their hand. That's why he was able to just maintain all kinds of balance in all angles, because the man could walk on his hands.
One of my saddest moments of thinking about Dirk and Kobe is that we were on the bus from our hotel in Marina Del Rey to Staples Center. And I guess this would have been Kobe's last season was 2016. Is that 2015-16 was his last year? Is that
16,
right?
Yeah. 2000. Yeah.
So
my last one. Yeah.
We were, this was probably like late January, early February of 2016. And then for whatever reason, that was a year when the Mavs and Lakers only played 3 times that season, not 4. And we had been to LA very early in the season. The Lakers had come to Dallas once, and Kobe did play in that game, so fans got to kind of give a little goodbye to Kobe in his last game. And then, knowing it was going to be Dirk and Kobe's last game on the floor, and about an hour and a half before game time, we're on the bus on the way to Staples Center, and a tweet came down: Kobe's got a sore shoulder and isn't going to play tonight. And to not see them on the floor together one last time was a bummer. But that was also the game, you may not remember, Dirk hit a game winner for the Mavs on the right baseline with about 2 seconds to go, and it was in front of the Laker bench, and he hit the shot, and he kind of backpedaled when he hit the shot. And yes, guess who slapped him on the butt?
Kobe slapped him on. Yeah.
And Dirk looks back and who just slapped me on the ass? And it's like, oh, it's Kobe. It's okay. All right.
Here's another one that I haven't shared in a long time, and you'll appreciate this one. Here's the saddest moment with Dirk that I saw. You remember what happened the year after that hat? Remember 2007, the number 1 seed, losing in the first round to Golden State, right? And going back to the hotel there at Golden State, that was like a sad moment for a team that had gotten knocked out 8 beating a 1. There was the big round tables. We were having like the final meal, the food serving, and everybody left. And Dirk and I are still sitting there. And, he's pretty dejected. And he asked the waiter for a bottle of red wine and a bowl of ice cream, because he said he had neither of them all season long.
Yeah.
Because he made mention that he knew very well the next week he was getting the MVP of the league. But he could not stand the thought of that, because it was more important for him to have won as a team than individual awards. And, that just locked in my head. I always remember that, because you know what? You just think of these guys, just think of their own accolades, but he just could not think of that.
Yeah, for sure. And then in your moment of despair, what do you turn to? A bottle of red wine and a bowl of ice cream, man.
Now, if you haven't had it all year, which I never gone that long with it, boy, he looked like he had not had it all year long too. That thing was gone quick. But those
that's a good. I've never heard that story, dude, and that's a good one.
It's because we were like the last 2 left in the room, and I thought, well, I probably shouldn't be here, but here we are.
Oh man, that's good, dude. I've heard a lot of stories over the year, and I promise to everybody listening, I have never heard this story before. This is good.
No, that one just, you can't make that up either, because the guy, he was just crestfallen that he was going to get handed that award, which, for most people that would kick in probably a pretty serious bonus or 2 in your contract. But
it's really easy to laugh. 2011 makes this story very easy to laugh about. We would not, I think we would not be laughing about it, but then 2011 fixed everything. And so now we can, even though that was a horrible, painful moment, we can have a laugh about it,
Well, it was just great sport. You love sports, Mark. You love that area. What is it that you love about Texas?
Oh gosh, well, it's home. And we just have such a unique story here. As a kid, I don't know what it's like, to be honest with you, when you grow up in other states, because Texas was its own country for 9 years, and was part of the viceroyalty of New Spain, with Spanish colonization here and everything, way back when. This area has such a long history. You take Texas history classes when you're in 7th grade growing up in the school system and the public school system in Texas. So I think what I love about it is it's just a very, very unique history to this state that has, there's so many interesting stories from it, and obviously there's some difficult stories from it too. As there is much of around the history of the United States. So, but it's still something that I like to learn about and was very important to learn about. And then the vastness of the state, that you can drive for 12 hours and still not leave the state, depending on which way you're driving. That we have mountains out west, and we have the coastal plain, and we have deserts, and we have forests that would rival any forest anywhere in the country. If you're in the piney woods of East Texas, I mean, there's just such a vast diversity of geography and topography and climate and everything here. The weather's great too. I work hard in my yard in the summer, my San Augustine grass. I take a lot of pride in that. My wife's probably listening in the other room right now. It's like, why is he talking about his freaking grass again? So he loves to talk about his grass. So,
well, you know what? One more that I have to talk about because my wife and I mention it also often because you love dogs, right? And
yes,
so
yes.
we've had several rescue dogs, and I think we often think about another type of dog, and it's because you have had it as well. You appreciate dogs, don't you?
Yes. And so my wife and I are very much involved with the Greyhound Adoption League of Texas.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we're on our second and third Greyhounds now. We had one before, and we lost her, and then we decided to be a 2 Greyhound family after that. And so, Joni and Jewel are our Greyhounds. And what Galt does is a wonderful organization, but there are a lot of Greyhound rescue organizations that are around the country. Galt was kind of the leaders in it. And, there was a point in time, to be perfectly honest with you, that, the fate of Greyhounds after their racing career was not a good one in many, many cases. And organizations all over the country, stepped in and really did a lot of work. They worked with the racing industry, and, a lot of changes were made, and a lot of changes were made that were, of course, for the betterment of the dogs. And so, now the racing industry, it's not around in very many states anymore. And so some things are changing with, the fewer and fewer Greyhounds, and who knows how that's all going to play. Maybe there will still be a lot of breeding that goes on for people who love the breed and want the breed moving forward. But rescue organizations all around this country have done some tremendous work with the racing industry and with retired racing Greyhounds, and we're proud to have a couple of them. They are, they're very, very sweet dogs. And the thing about it, Dave, is that I think people misconceive they must be extremely high energy dogs and difficult to take care of them. We have the 2 laziest dogs in the world, man. And, people call the Greyhound the 45-mile-per-hour couch potato. They love to do a couple of zoomies in the yard. You take them on a little short walk, and then these dogs sleep and want their scratches and their belly rubs, and just they want to be around their people all the time. They're wonderful, wonderful animals, man. As all of our 4-legged friends are, but obviously, we're partial to the Greyhounds.
Well, you know what? It's just a wonderful story. I had to mention that because
thank you.
I met your first one night after we ate dinner. I was sitting on the couch, and Phoebe, I believe, right?
Yep, that's right.
I mean, just became an instant friend and just laid right on me. And I came home thinking, I got to have one of these. I got to have one of these. So for people thinking I got to have a Greyhound, what is one side though that you would say as an advisement? You better be ready to do this if you own a Greyhound.
Make sure that they're never off leash in an open area, because they will, they're fast dogs, and a squirrel or whatever, they may bolt away and you ain't catching them, and who knows where they're going to run to. And so, you obviously get danger with traffic situations and, traffic awareness and things like that, because sighthounds, the prey drive can be very, very high, Dave, for sighthounds, which Greyhounds are, and other sighthounds can, the same thing is part of it. Prey drive is just like, I am going to go catch this rabbit or squirrel or whatever it is that I see running. And, unfortunately, there can sadly be some bad results.
Yeah,
so that's the one thing that's really, really important to know for sure, that just a Greyhound can't be off leash out in the open. You got to have a good fenced in yard or a dog park or, that sort of thing.
Mark, you've known many of the guests that I've had on here since I started doing this, Jerry Valancourt, Sean Salisbury, Andy Bernstein, the NBA photographer a couple weeks ago. So people can see that I have a lot of fun. I know a lot of people, but I know a lot of really, really cool people. You've always been one of those. You're a great friend, and I hope I get a chance to see you soon. Thanks for taking a little extra time with me, having a little fun here on a Friday.
Hey, man, I'm happy to do the extra time. You deserve it, man. And, as I said, man, I just really so enjoyed our days working together and saw how hard you worked. Not when it just came to, your work with the Mavs, but what you did for the radio station and establishing a relationship between a brand new radio station and all the teams in town. There's a lot of being on the air. There's some glory to it, but off the air, there's a lot of hard work that nobody sees, and nobody really, they're not giving you trophies for that kind of work and stuff and awards for that kind of work. But you worked your tail off on that stuff, man, and I've never forgotten it, and just always have the utmost respect for you for it, and just. Man, it's really, really, genuinely very, very good to catch up with you, dude. I mean that.
Well, tell your colleagues hello for me, Coop and Skin, and tell Harp go Illini. Everybody that is my friends on here knows that I'm an Illinois fan, but those were the glory days. I mean, Harp could shoot.
Yes.
Mark. He never saw a shot that he didn't like either, but he was great at it. So him and Eddie Johnson, what a couple of great Illini. Mark, have a great one. Enjoy your summer.
You got it, man. Take care, Dave. All the best to you and your friends in North Carolina, man. All the best.
All right. Thanks so much. That's Mark Followill joining us on Live at 5. You can check him out. I hope he's going to do some more sports as well. He's good at a lot of sports. Here's as I said, we're winding down to tomorrow's event. This is my team, The Shore Thing. You can go at alsa.org/go to Dave Shore, or you can see it on my Facebook page here as well. I appreciate all of you that donated this past week as well. It's a big deal, and we'll work every day to see if we can end and take care of the ALS community and end what has been such a horrible disease. but thank you for your time. I enjoy doing this each and every week. Until next week, have a blessed weekend. I'm Dave Shore. Thanks for joining us on Live at 5.